Hey everybody, tonight we're going to be making shrimp Creole, which is hands down one of my favorite dishes ever. Shrimp Creole is a dish that I grew up on. It's from Louisiana. This one's a tomato based version of it. Depending on which part of the state you're from, it could be either tomato based or without. So what I've got here is 2 pounds of shrimp that I've cleaned and deveined. I've set the shells and tails aside. I'm going to be making a stock out of those. I've got our vegetables here. I'm going to dice those up. We're going to make a roux, then we're going to add our vegetables, saute them, then we're going to add our shrimp stock to it, let that cook down. We're going to add a few other things to it. Then once it's all done, we're going to serve that over rice, and I guarantee you're going to like this one. This is hands down one of my favorite dishes. It's pretty easy to make, just a little bit time consuming. So what I'm going to do is get our stock going. I'll get our vegetables prepped here, and I'll show you step by step how we're going to get this done. And we'll go from there, but I guarantee you're gonna like it. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is make our shrimp stock. So I've got our 2 pounds of shrimp that I've cleaned and deveined. I've set the tails and shells aside, and that's gonna be the base for our stock. So I'm gonna add a nice handful of thyme to that. I'm gonna put a couple garlic cloves in there, just smash them up. This is all gonna get strained off anyway. Got a medium-sized onion, just give that a rough chop, throw that in there. Got a couple pieces of celery, just real rough chop. Throw that in there. Got about 4 bay leaves and about a teaspoon of peppercorns. Throw that in there. Got a lemon. I'm just going to slice that up, and we'll throw that in there. So, also I got about 7 or 8 cups of water here. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to bring this up to just before a boil. Let this simmer for about 45 minutes to an hour. It doesn't have to go that long. Then we're going to strain this, and then we're going to use that as our stock. So let's go ahead and get this going. Okay, so we've got our shrimp stock made, we've got all of our vegetables prepped here, we've got everything set aside, so we're going to start putting this thing together. But first I want to show you what I've got going on here. So I've got our tomatoes here that I've peeled and diced. Came out to about 3 cups of tomatoes. If you don't want to use fresh tomatoes, by all means grab a can of tomatoes and substitute this. What I've got here is a bell pepper, 3 ribs of celery that I've diced up. Got a good sized onion that I've diced up here. Then I've got 3 bay leaves and some fresh thyme here, some tomato paste. Got our spice mixture here. This is a tablespoon of Tony's, half a teaspoon of cayenne, half a teaspoon of white pepper, and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. 3 garlic cloves that are pressed into this here. We've got our shrimp stock and some lean parents. This is all going to be part of what we're throwing together here. So let's go ahead, we'll get started on our roux. That's the first part. So what I've got on the stove is half a stick of butter, and I've got about 3 tablespoons of flour. It's not quite a real roux, but it's going to be good for thickening up this dish. So we'll get started on our roux, and then we'll start adding our other ingredients, and I'll show you step by step how we're going to do this. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've got a half a stick of butter and 2 tablespoons of flour going here. I've whisked it together and let it start to get some color like you would a roux. Now I'm going to go ahead and add our onion in there. Let that start to saute. We'll give that a head start. Then we're going to go ahead and add our bell pepper and celery. Let those go for a bit, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so our bell peppers, onions, and celery started to sweat down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add about a tablespoon and a half of tomato paste here. I'm going to add our seasoning mixture in. We'll get that going. Then pretty quick we're going to add our tomatoes to that. I'm going to give this a stir. We'll be back in just a second, and we'll add our tomatoes in there and go from there. Okay, so maybe kind of hard to see, but that tomato paste is starting to brown up a little bit. Vegetables are getting sweated out a little bit there. So I'm going to go ahead and add our tomatoes to that, and Also gonna add a good pinch of kosher salt in there. What that's gonna do is that's gonna help break those tomatoes down. So we'll get that in there. Give this a good stir, let it go for a bit. We'll come back and keep going from there. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes now. These tomatoes really started to break down. Everything's starting to break down, looking really good, smelling great. So what I'm going to do is add about a half cup of white wine here. Let that cook down a little bit. Then we'll add our stock and the rest of our ingredients. We're going to save the shrimp. We're going to add those last, but everything's starting to come together really nicely here. So we'll let this go, come back and add the rest of our ingredients. Let it do its thing for a while, then come back and finish it off. So we'll check back in a bit. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. Everything's breaking down nicely. It smells great in here. So we're going to add the 3 bay leaves and the fresh thyme in there, and 2 cups of our shrimp stock. Going to give that a good stir and let that go for a while. That'll reduce down. Then we'll add the rest of our ingredients. You don't have to add the shrimp till the very end. They're only going to take about 5 or 10 minutes to make, so you can actually make this the night ahead and reheat it the next day, and then add the shrimp, finish it off. So far so good. Everything's looking really good, smelling great. So we'll let this go, cook down a bit, come back, add our shrimp, and then we'll finish it all off. Okay, so this has been simmering away for about 20-30 minutes here. It's reduced down a little bit. One thing I forgot to mention last time is that I added about 2 or 3 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce to that. So I think we're about ready to go ahead and start finishing this up. So what I'm going to do is add some green onion in here, just a couple tablespoons, maybe about 1/8 of a cup to 1/4 of a cup of parsley. I've got our shrimp here. I've got 2 pounds of shrimp here, but I'm not going to be eating this all at once. So if you were serving this all at once, you would go ahead and throw the full 2 pounds in there. But what I'm going to do is throw about half of those in there. So the next time around, I'm going to go ahead and heat it back up and then cook the rest of the shrimp, just so they don't get tough and chewy. So I'm going to go ahead and add these shrimp. I'll let them cook for about 5 or 10 minutes. Come back, we'll plate it up. Got some rice here that I've boiled. I've rinsed it in cold water, put it back on the stove to reheat it. It's going to go great with this. So we'll cook these shrimp, come back, we'll plate it up, and then we'll check it out from there. Okay, so we're all wrapped up here, so we're going to go ahead and plate this up. So I've got some boiled rice here. Put that on the bottom of our bowl. Then we've got our Creole here. Serve that up. Then we'll go ahead and garnish that with a little more of our parsley. Got some green onions here. Then if you want, you can throw some hot sauce on that. But this is a really spicy version of it. If you don't like all the spice, you can cut the spices in half. But this is a great dish. I guarantee you're going to like it. So I'm going to go ahead and eat. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.